sort of stuff between me and just like.
Are you guys leaving still?
Okay, so guys, if you don't mind, please. All right, so yesterday we talked a lot about the scientific method. We talked about the 4 parts. And one of the things that we did not talk about were variables. And so that's why I want to make sure we take a short time today to talk about. And so when we think about variables, what we're thinking about in the science room with the variables is we're mostly talking about those things that are being tested or that are being changed. And we have mostly 2 types of variables. Well, I guess 3. There are 3 types of variables. The first variable is called the independent variable. And a lot of times we refer to that as the manipulated variable. It's the one that we are actively changing. And so when we think about independent variable, it's the one that's being changed. That's awesome.
Get me to work the computer.
No,
You always have problems
not always.
like.
We find out ways around. Okay, and then another one that we call is the dependent variable. This is something that we might refer to as the responding variable. So when we think about dependent, I want you to think about the temperature of the day or of the time as the day progresses. So we think about, let's say, 1 o'clock in the morning. How is that temperature going to be compared to the temperature at noon?
It's gonna be colder.
Okay, it's going to be colder, all right? So which of those two, the temperature and time, which of those is our manipulated variable? Time, that's the one that we're actively changing here. We're going to change the time from 1 o'clock in the morning till noon. And then as we're changing the manipulated variable, what's the variable that responds to that change? The temperature. Okay, and that's what we call that the responding variable. So a lot of times when you think about dependent, you want to think about that as responding. All right, so let's kind of write that out together. So dependent is the responding variable. And then we have the independent variable. This is the one we refer to as the manipulated. It's the one that we are changing. So our independent variable is our manipulated variable. And then the last one I want to talk about is the controls. Your control variable is essentially the variable that, these are your constraints. These are things we're going to keep the same. All right, so these are the things that don't change in an experiment. So yesterday, in one of the experiments, we talked about SpongeBob dealing with the flowers, right? We had one out in the open and one in the closet. You guys remember that problem? Okay. Is that a valid experiment?
No.
Why not? They're not in the same area. We want to keep the environments the same as much as we can. Okay? And all of those things are called control variables. The amount that they're getting water, the amount of sunlight they receive, the temperature in which they're stored. All these things need to be the same. They need to remain constant. And that's what we call them controls, because we are controlling those values. Okay, so those are called the control variables. And a lot of times when we're looking at doing experiments, we want to make sure that we've controlled all the variables except for one. And that's the dependent variable, the responding variable. So we want to see how does that affect the outcome. So when we think about controls, that's kind of the most important piece. Are we really assessing what we want to? And then the controls are kind of, they get pretty insane. When you think about all the different controls that need to be put in place. So that's basically, those are the three types of variables. What I want to do next, I'm going to have you guys work with your partners, and we're going to do a worksheet in which you guys are practicing to identify the controls, manipulated variable, and the independent variable. I guess one is I should mention here, we think about controls. A lot of times we think about just a single variable, right? The amount of light would be a single variable. But think about this from the perspective of a drug company that wants to find out whether or not a certain drug is actually working the way it's supposed to. How do the drug companies actually test those medicines?
Animal.
No. Panic.
They hire people, they give people money to test them or whatever.
All right. And then what?
And then they like see what happens.
Okay, talking about the setup. Yes, they bring people in. Yes, they pay them to be participants. It's kind of nice to give your body the science before you die. Coleman?
I guess some of them the real pill and some of them not.
Yeah, what's that not pill called?
Water pill.
Yeah, it's like a placebo. Okay, that's got a scientific term there, placebo. Not a placebo, but a placebo. A lot of times it's like a water pill or just a sugar pill. And so people think it's the drug, but they're really not getting anything. Why is that? Why would we control or call that a control group?
Because it doesn't change.
Yeah, we're not changing anything, right? Those are the people that nothing's happening to them. We're just giving them this make-believe pill. Okay? So it's really important we identify that sometimes when we talk about control experiments or control variables, it's not always variables, it could be groups of people. Okay, this is going to be our control group, this is our experimental group. Okay? With me, fellas? Okay. Alright, so are we good on that? I want to make sure we talk about that. Alright. So, let's get you guys started on this workshop. I want you guys working together. I want to hear good group discussions on this worksheet because it's related to your homework for the night.